is the biggest trauma of life. So for Freud, in that point of view, the process of birth, when I am born, is the biggest trauma that a person could ever have. This is why every time we are in pain, the pain we have in our life is a pain that reminds us of the original, of the biggest pains of life, that is birth. And this is why we also want to go back to the original place, that is called to go to a fetal position, that is going back to a place where I'm nurtured, where I feel love, I feel fit, and the temperature is right. On the other hand, Freud also says that life is a fight between Eros and Thanatos. Eros is life and Thanatos is death. And at the end, who wins? Thanatos, death. So this is one point of view. Another point of view comes from a different angle, and this is coming more from Moreno, for example. He says that this is an interesting story, but in reality, life is different, and the process of change is different. And for him to analyze that, he uses a biological process, and he uses the process of birth to explain that. And this is Morenian point of view. If we see this as the feminine gynecological system, and we have the ovaries, we have the fallopian tubes, we have the uterus and the vagina. The way that the story or the biological process is, it works like this. When the ovum is expelled into the fallopian tube, and in this place, the fallopian tube, the ovum found or met with the spermatozoid, this is the time with fertilization. This is the time that we call the best place, and also the best time for this to happen. Because if this encounter happens outside the fallopian tube, happen inside the uterus, this fertilization will not happen. So this is putting in place that life happens in time and space. This is the place and time in that case. But the fertilization it starts, and the ovum starts growing. And this process of growing grows in that place. In this place so far is the best place and the best time. But because it's growing, this place is not the best place and the best time anymore, so it has to move on. And what we see in that case is, if it doesn't move, it doesn't migrate, this is bad. It's bad for the baby and bad for the mother. And this is one of the basic elements on the relational thinking that we have, that everything that happened to one person affects directly the other person too. This is what is a relational model. What happened here biologically too is that the ovary, when the ovum is expelled and the fertilization happened, there is a hormone, a progesterone, that is start secreting into the system, and within the utero there is a creation of a place that is ahead of the process. Because in that place, this fertilized ovum is going to nest. It's going to find there the place to grow. So as the time continues, this fertilized ovum continues in that place and finds a place where this ovum can be. We create the fetus later on, and this is contained in this matrix that has been created ahead of life. The interesting thing here is that when this happened, it's usually the time that the mother or the woman is aware that is pregnant. So good news, I'm pregnant. And if we have a good story, that this woman has a fantastic husband who is also celebrating, and the whole family is celebrating, all of this process is happening parallel to their biological system, and we call this a social process. social process. In the same way that biology goes ahead to receive the ovum that is fertilized, in the same way the social process starts in that time to start creating what Moreno will call later on a social matrix. This is the time when the parents start talking. It will be a boy or a girl. I hope they will not be like your mother, or I hope it will be like your father, or things like that. And they start talking about names, talking to paint in the room, and all of these elements goes ahead of the process of the pregnancy to be able to start creating here another container to receive this baby. At this point of time, the utero is the best place and the best time for this fetus to be. But this also continue growing. Doesn't stay like that. Continue growing in this way. Continue growing in a way that to the time that this utero is not anymore the best place and the best time to stay there. So in that time the pressure of the head of the baby into the cervix will generate a conditioning into the body that starts secreting a hormone that is called oxytocin, and this oxytocin starts putting a pressure around the utero that is created the constructions for this baby to get out. Why is that? Because up to this point the utero was the best place and the best time to stay there. If it stays there, it's bad for the baby and also bad for the mother. In that case, the baby is ready to go out, and this is the time when the baby goes outside, and ideally this social matrix is already created, beautiful created like this, that will be able to contain the baby absolutely. And this is the baby will come into here to be able to be received by society, by the parents. And in that way, the process of birth is not a trauma. The trauma is not to be born. So what we learn from here? What we learn from here is that our life is not a fight for life or death. In reality, our life is a journey towards life, towards growth. And the idea here is that for us to be aware, where is the container, where I am at the moment, that if this is enough for me to start feeding me, that I'm satisfied, that I'm happy, that I'm still nurturing, may not be the time to change. So the time to change is when this matrix, when this place where I am is not feeding anymore. This is the time for me to start considering to change. And to be able to change in that way, I need to have a place where to go to. Many people want to change. To change from one country to another, from one situation to another, from one career to another. And sometimes they move out in that situation from that place, but without having a place to go. And this is why, metaphorically speaking, we talk about an abortion, a miscarriage. So the idea here is for us to live, to go permanently from one place to another, and to find a place where I can really stay. The story here continues, saying that in the ideal is that this baby will be born in a place. This is the mother, this is the baby. The mother is containing the baby. That in the same way that the baby is contained socially, this mother is also contained by others, like maybe the father, maybe the other brothers or sisters, grandparents, and society that is creating several types of layers around the mother for this protection. So this is what society is all about, to be able to be contained. And in that place, this is the place that I can grow. I can live, I can enjoy life, and I can be satisfied. Reflect and write about the implication of this way of thinking for the way we view change.